in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them.
Our own government is facilitating the absolute destruction of the American immigration system, and I can prove it point by point. I'm unafraid to speak the truth. This is just data-driven and experience-driven.
Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict.
The United States went to war. We, the people, did not ask enough questions about the war. There was a great deal of pressure to believe that this was a war of absolute necessity. You can't help but think, why didn't we ask more questions? Why didn't we ask tougher questions? Why didn't we dig deeper into what was really going on as opposed to what those in power were trying to convince us was going on?
Saddam Hussein is a homicidal dictator who is addicted to weapons of mass destruction.
Well, it's one of the lessons. It's easy to get into war, very difficult to get out of war. I've seen Americans fight and, yes, die in war. Once you've seen that, it leaves an indelible impression on you. And here, all these years later, we are still involved in Iraq. I don't think anybody at the time believed that 15 years later we would still be with some of our sons and daughters fighting and dying in Iraq.
It's our constitutional duty to do oversight. Now, in that video, that was your answer to a question to me 2 years ago, when I said how many agents or assets of the government were present on January 5th and January 6th and agitating in the crowd to go into the Capitol, and how many went into the Capitol. Can you answer that now?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, last time, you don't know how many there were, or there were none?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions. If there were any, I don't know how many. I don't know whether there are any.
I think you may have just perjured yourself that you don't know that there were any. You want to say that again, that you don't know that there were any?
I have no personal knowledge of this matter. I think what I said the last time.
You've had 2 years to find out. And the day, by the way, that was in reference to Ray Epps, and yesterday you indicted him. Isn't that a wonderful coincidence? On a misdemeanor. Meanwhile, you're sending grandmas to prison. You're putting people away for 20 years for merely filming. Some people weren't even there yet. You've got the guy on video who's saying go into the Capitol. He's directing people to the Capitol before the speech ends. He's at the site of the first breach. You've got all the goods on him, 10 videos, and it's an indictment for a misdemeanor? The American public isn't buying it. I yield the balance of my time to Chairman Jordan.
May I answer the question?
I'm going to ask you one now. We'll let the gentleman.
Yeah.
You can stop that one there.
In Discovery,
It was designed to have a fully loaded 707 crash into it. That was the largest plane at the time. I believe that the building probably could sustain multiple impacts of jetliners because this structure is like the mosquito netting on your screen door, this intense grid, and the jet plane is just a pencil puncturing that screen netting. It really does nothing to the screen netting.
United Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower at the 78th story and above. It is 56 minutes later. Watch as the floors at the impact point begin to crumble and pitch forward. Then, with the rest of the building, they plummet more or less straight down at up to free fall speeds. In other words, with little resistance whatsoever from below. It all takes just 9 seconds.
The only way that a building can fall for 100 feet of its fall at free fall acceleration in the first 2¼ seconds is to have those columns removed and all at once. There's nothing driving the rest of the building down after that upper section has destroyed itself. It's tearing itself apart at free fall acceleration. And the concrete and the gypsum board in this building, almost all of it, is being pulverized in midair to talcum powder almost.
The reason for the collapse of World Trade Center 7 is no longer a mystery. World Trade Center 7 collapsed because of fires fueled by office furnishings.
Who shot the footage? He's walking out on the moon. One giant leap for mankind.
He had a TV camera.
Where?
It was in the as he walked down the lamb. He pulled a handle that deployed what was called a MESA, the modular equipment assembly, modular equipment storage area, whatever it was. And in that was a camera. And so when that came down, they flipped it on, and the camera was pointed right at the landing. And so as he came down the ladder, this camera was taking his picture. It's a TV camera. It's grainy, but it was in that assembly. Right. And then once we got off, they took the camera and put it on a little tripod, if I remember. But
last thing, I remember very clearly, I think anybody who was alive at the time does, I remember my parents waking me up and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon.
No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation. So you associated what you saw with...
I have very hazy memories.
Yeah, I know.
Well, no, but what we saw was we all were gathered around the old curved top radio and listened.
Talking about, how many feet we were going to the left and right, and then I said, contact light, engine stop, and a few other things, and then Neil said, Houston, Tranquility Base, the Eagle has landed.
That's just
Okay, when he hits the craters and starts bouncing is when he gets his rooster tail. He makes sharp turns. Hey, that was a good stop. Those wheels just locked. Mark off. Okay. Those hold. They want 4 minutes worth, John. Well, it's 1 minute and 5. Maybe you can do it twice more. Surely. Okay, turn sharp.
A number of people, for one reason or other, who just do not want to comply and get vaccinated. We've got to get them vaccinated. And hopefully they will do it willingly. If not, there will have to be things that will essentially put pressure on them, such as you're not going to work in this particular agency or institution. You're not going to be able to go to this college or this university unless, in fact, you get vaccinated. And I believe that once we start doing that, you will see more and more people willingly get vaccinated.
The problem is in the arena that we appear to be living in of disinformation and untruths, there was this theme out there that the mRNA vaccines were causing more deaths than COVID, which is utterly outlandish, because if you look at the data of the billions of people who have received vaccination, life-saving vaccination for COVID, people who are unvaccinated have a hospitalization and death rate like that. People who are vaccinated, it's down.
You can
like
stop
that.
it there.
So the data, as we were talking about.
Welcome to Truth with J.J. Carrell. Title of my show is What and Who Do You Believe? Is this all propaganda? Last night, I went and visited a friend, and he is battling a death sentence, cancer. And he was talking to me and going through how he was doing and the treatments he did. And he was talking to me about how the people that are treating or have treated him don't know what they're doing. That it's just a assembly line. And everybody's supposed to just believe what these people say. And as I'm driving home, I'm just thinking to myself, everything's a lie. Nothing is the truth. And I started going through just things that I assumed was factually the truth throughout my childhood and into my early adult life. And I started thinking about everything that I believed was truth that has now become ridiculous. Like utterly ridiculous. And I'm not talking about small things. I'm talking about things that have shaped the world that we live in today. I mean, let's just go through some of the things that I put up there in the cold open. I mean, let's talk about it. What we got, the Iraq War for weapons of mass destruction with Iraq. Saddam Hussein and his two evil sons, Uday and Uday, I think their names are. And they were evil. Yes, they were evil, and they did horrible things to their people. But that's not my problem. I'm not going to go and do a war for bad people doing bad things in the Middle East. For God's sake, we could be at war for eternity because I could find 1 million bad people in the Middle East. Hell, I can find 1 million bad people in America right now. I'm not going to go to war. 4,000 dead lives, trillions of dollars, 4,000. That's the beginning of the war. Thousands of U.S. citizens murdered, killed in the line of duty in the military. Probably over 1 million plus have died in the Middle East because of our bombings. Complete destruction of their communities. For what? Now we find out for nothing. For nothing. January 6th. People are still in jail for, it's called entrapment. When you're in law enforcement and you go and you're doing surveillance and you're in crowds or parades or protests, you cannot participate in criminal activity. You can't go and do criminal activity and then usher people into the criminal activity and go, oh, you're under arrest. That's called entrapment. People are still in jail. 9/11. There's videos that are now uncovered where people are being interviewed like as it's happening. And they're going, another plane flew into the building. And people are going, there were no planes. There was just explosions. Building 7. Don't even get into 9, the Twin Towers imploded on themselves. Imploded on every architect, engineer has already debunked everything. People that built the World Trade Center said it was built almost 2,000 times the needed strength. Meaning if something hit it and 10 stories collapsed, it collapsed on each other and it would sustain the build, the fall. Let's not even get into that. Let's talk about Building 7. Okay, this is what we were told, and they still stick by it. Building 7 fell down on itself. That looks like complete design demolition because the furniture, I can't even say it without a straight, because the furniture in the building was on fire and the furniture and the carpet caused so much heat that the 40-story building imploded. Okay, you believe that. You go ahead. What else we got? COVID. You need to 6 feet apart. Oh no, we found they made that up. Hey, all you have to do is get vaccinated. You're okay. Nope. It's the unvaccinated will still get the vaccinated. What? It doesn't make any sense. Listen, when the Chinese were eating the bats in the wet market, we all got COVID. What are you talking about? The Chinese were eating bats? There's a laboratory down the street called the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It's right next to the bat people. No, that it would never come from that. It was people eating from the bats. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right now. Hey, listen, America, when we created, or when the Chinese created, whoever created this disease, this pandemic, we built in it that it would only attack churches,
and small businesses and schools. So we can't go to church, we can't go to school, and we can't go any small business. What's great about the pandemic, the coronavirus that we built, it doesn't go into liquor or weed stores. It does not enter big box stores. And anybody that wants to continue to go to a strip joint can go and get lap dances because COVID doesn't go into those places. And every stupid American nodded their head. Okay. The moon landing. The moon landing. We've never been back. What is the explanation from NASA about the moon landing? Why can't we go back? Because they lost all of the schismatics, all electronics, all of their mathematical equations. They've lost them all. The dog ate their homework. Now, you want to believe the moon landing happened? Fine. Pyramids. Pyramids, a bunch of uneducated, malnutritious slaves built the pyramid. And there's only pyramids in Egypt as I grew up. It's only in Egypt. We don't understand. It's just amazing what those Egyptians did. Nope, there's pyramids all over the globe. Oh, and there's now massive structures underneath. Underneath the pyramids? Yeah, like thousands of meters beneath it. Let me tell you, you don't have to agree with me, and that's fine. But you have to understand that this is the age of awakening. Every single thing is bubbling to the surface. Nothing makes sense. At the very minimum, you don't have to like me, you don't have to like what I'm proposing, but you have to agree that nothing, absolutely nothing in our lives today makes any sense. 2 and 2 does not equal 4. We are living in, I believe, some of the darkest time. And I believe we are getting to the point where we're beginning to see things very clearly. And I think there's a segment of population that will not look at, not at all. They just will not allow this information to penetrate their brain. Think about everything that you have been lied to about your whole life. Everything. Everything. We talk about religion on this show. I was told things, even as a young man, that I was like, that doesn't make any sense. God, the God of the Old Testament that would tell groups of people, hey, you need to repent, you need to repent, you need to repent, you need to repent. And then he just goes, okay, I'm going to kill everybody. And he kills everybody. Men, women, and children. Women that are pregnant, woe to be to you. Kills them all. And then, when that God of absolute power and strength and judgment and righteousness, he's going to send his son down to America, or excuse me, to the world. And who does he send? Well, he sends the most effeminate, the most cowardly, the most fluid gay Jesus he can find. Gay Jesus, I'm quoting the gentleman that is the premier expert on the Shroud of Turin and calls the European Jesus the gay Jesus. Are you telling me that man, that God, the God of everything, sent down his son is a effeminate LGBTQ guy with rosy cheeks? Or is he or does he look like the guy from the Shroud of Turin that would stand before you, muscular, incredibly defined features on his face, look you right in the eye and scare the hell out of you just by looking at you like you're a sinner, you better change. A really rugged, manly man. You see how we've been lied and propagandized our whole lives about everything? About every little thing. The biggest question I have, and I hope I live long enough to experience it or have this question answered, when it all comes out, all of it, all the lies, all the deceit, all the propaganda, what is it going to look like in the world and in America? What is it going to look like? Two people that I really respect. Are they ready, Logan? I'm bringing in Kurt and Kristen from Pet Club 24/7, and I don't know if they're here yet. I'm waiting for yep, there they are. Welcome to the show. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I went a little long on my monologue, so I appreciate your patience. It's mind-numbing to me what let me just speak for me. From what I'm uncovering in my, let's call it an intellect or a lack of intellectual journey that I've been on my whole life. And now I'm coming to the point where I'm rereading the Bible and I'm looking at things more clearly. And I'm just like, I want to go to the world. Time out. I have some questions that must be answered. And I don't think I'm going to get any answers. I mean, I'm just going to ask you outside of what we're going to talk about today, because it's all tied together. Do you two feel that way? Do you, or am I crazy? Because I have to ask people that I trust every now and then, hey, and I do have friends that I do ask this, hey, man, honestly, am I losing my mind? Or am I onto something, right? When you hear me speak this way, do you think that I'm crazy? I'm curious. Honestly, I'm asking the question.
Absolutely not. In fact, as I was listening to you, I was like, this is exactly the way Kristen and I are feeling right now. And I'm not speaking for her. It's just that we talk about these very things and we feel exactly the same way. And then it's compounded after, what just happened, what we experienced, just recently. And we're feeling the same way about that situation. It's unbelievable.
What is there something that maybe triggered you to start to think this? Because honestly, 5-10 years ago, if we were having this discussion, I would think you were crazy. Like I would say, oh boy, here we go. Pet Club 24/7 nut jobs. They're going to start going down this road, right? But now I look back on myself 10 years ago and say, you're so stupid. How did you believe that? And now if you're intellectually honest, you got to think, what else am I believing that's the truth right now? What other thing am I stupid about? Is there something? Was it religious? Was it Charlie Kirk? Was it finding out about, the wars in the Middle East? What was it, may I ask you, that triggered you to begin to question things more rabidly, if that's the right word to use?
At least 12 years ago, our son-in-law, we were out visiting them in Montana. And he was showing us pulled out discs of 9/11 and was showing us all these things that you were talking about today. And that's what really started opening her and I up to really questioning so many different things. And that's why we're where we're at today. And at that time, I felt how you felt, what you said about what he was showing me. But as he showed me the evidence, I at first I didn't even want to watch it, but it opened our minds up completely.
And then it's kind of like, sorry,
no,
and then
please,
it's kind of like
no.
Court, when you lie about one thing, then everything's a lie. So once you see that one thing that the media and the authorities and everyone told you happened, and you see proof counter to that or evidence that speaks a completely different narrative, then you start going, okay, if they did it about this thing, then what else have they done it about? And then that's kind of how the revelation after revelation started.
No, and I agree with you completely, because I think the same thing as a former law enforcement officer and investigator. So if somebody comes to me, and let's take our belief in Jesus. So we were told that this is all a fairy tale, that this is they just wrote a book, and then archaeologists and scientists and demographic people get in and go, oh no, God, of course, God did this. They went and did a census. So there is a guy named Jesus, and his mother was Mary and his father was Joseph, and he grew up in where he grew up. And then And then you're like, okay, well, there's that guy, but he wasn't crucified. Well, actually, yes, there's testimony of people outside of religion, like historians, documenting the man was crucified. So we go through this whole process all the way up to the point that he's crucified is truth. And then the last thing is he rose from the dead and is the Son of God, and he is part of the Trinity. No. All those things were correct, but that you people are crazy. And I do that in reverse, whereas I see everything that I have been told in my life that I'm currently aware of, and I know I'm ignorant, and there's tons more. All of that's been a lie. Like nothing is the truth. So every time that somebody says, well, Charlie Kirk, shooter, disassemble his gun and put his gun back together and then ran and texted his furry, gay, transgender lover, made it a complete, said everything that I did that is wrong. And I'm supposed to sit here and go, well, they're telling us the truth for the first time. I have to believe them now. Yeah, one thing. Oh, see, you guys got me all worked up. I thought I would just segue into Pet Club, but you guys got me. I mean, it's something we could talk about for hours and hours, right? It's the propaganda is unbelievable.
And that's what makes it so frustrating is it's propaganda. And, you know, people standing for something that they believe in, we're all for that. People fighting for causes and this and that, we're all for that. Even if they're misinformed or, you know, they've been misled and they're fighting for something that they don't realize what they're fighting for, that's one thing. But it's this propaganda. It's using these ideas and these concepts and these kind of noble pursuits and then using them to get more power or more money or, you know, using it out of greed and self-interest and all of that. That's what just turns my stomach. And I think as we're growing and learning more, like you said, all those different things, as we're learning more, our discernment is increasing. Our discernment is rising. And now the second we see something that's not authentic, that's just propaganda, meant to push us one way or another or believe what they believe for whatever purpose they want, we just feel it in our gut, and I'm grateful for that, but at the same time we've been feeling that a lot lately. It's just constantly turning, like, stop it, just stop, you know.
It's crazy, and this is like, I have two videos that I want to show you, and this segues perfectly into it. And this is a video of RFK Jr. talking about how Big Pharma has propagandized us and lied to us to where babies are getting up to 90 shots, like babies all the way up to like 3 years old, 90 shots. And one of them, he talks about that it is, my son didn't take this and we had to fight this. And because my wife came home and said, well, the doctor says that Joseph has to get this Hep B shot. And I said, okay, well, what's Hep B and all? Well, that's for STD, like genital warts. And I'm like, what in the hell are you talking about? Like, I didn't even know. I was like, you must have heard this wrong, sweetheart. And she's like, no, this is what and I go, absolutely no. They're giving baby shots for genital warts that they're sexually transmitted. This is insanity. But let me play this and let me get your comment, because it's part and parcel for what we're talking about today. Go ahead, Logan. We play clip number 10, please.
When we passed the Vaccine Act, when I was a kid, there was only 3 vaccines, and I was compliant. But when we passed the Vaccine Act, it made vaccines very, very valuable. And all of a sudden, there was a gold rush to add a lot of new vaccines to the schedule for diseases that aren't even casually contagious, like rotavirus, like hepatitis B. Why are we giving hepatitis B vaccine to a 1-day-old child? Hepatitis B, you know, the major vectors for that are it's sexually transmitted or by needles. Why would you give that to a 1-day-old child? It's really a profit motive.
What's your response to that or comment on that statement?
Again, it makes me sick to my stomach. It just makes me sick to my stomach. And you've said this before on your show. What's most disturbing about this pharmaceutical gold rush called vaccines is that it's affecting the most innocent and the most helpless of all of us. A 1-day-old baby that can't make the decision for themselves. They can't think. They're going to have to live with the ramifications of that choice for the rest of their lives. And it's going to impact them for the rest of their lives. And there are so many parents like myself that didn't know that I had a choice. I had no idea what they were. I got them when I was young. I just thought it was part of the process. No information, not told what I could do or what I couldn't do. It was just forced on me, and I just blindly accepted it. And to see how much that's even grown since I was a baby, even my children, when they were babies, to what it is today, it's sickening what they're doing to babies and how it's impacting them, all for profit, all for greed.
All for profit. I was with a friend and family last night, and they have a little baby. She's about 1.5 years. And we were talking about this, and the mother looked at me and said, he hasn't got one shot, and she's not getting any of them, none. And my wife and I looked back and we said, if we knew now what our 14-year-old son then, and it was probably same time or frame as you guys, we just said, okay, we have to do it. My son would have no shots. And I look at my son, and I think, especially for a boy, and especially being in California is like a 1 in 8 for autism. Just by the grace of God, my son escaped autism. Think of that, 1 in 8. If I told you and I gave you a gun and it had 8 rounds in it, and I said, look, it's a 1 in 8 chance you're going to blow your head off. Russian roulette. Let's go. There's no way in hell you would take that chance. No way in hell would you take that chance. But that's what we're doing. We're taking our babies, giving them to doctors, and they're shooting them with a gun and saying, I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe it does. Maybe it's going to kill them. Maybe it's going to alter their life completely. And I look at this little child yesterday, beautiful little girl, beautiful skin, beautiful everything, right? Just smells good and is laughing and crying and angry and back to laughing. And I think, look at what God created. And we're so stupid as a group of people that we think God created this child so perfectly, except God knew that we would ultimately need to shoot it with needles 90 times with aluminum. And then we're so stupid, we're like, I don't know how autism is the way it is. I'm enraged. And maybe I'm more enraged because not more Americans are speaking up. Let me show you one more clip, and this is RFK Jr. again, and this really tells the story of how they're doing it. There are no studies of children under 6 months old. They're not even they are, and they're hiding it from us. Can you imagine that we've allowed this to happen? Go ahead and play clip 11 for us, Logan, please.
None of the vaccines that are administered to children during the first 6 months of life have ever been studied for autism. In fact, the Institute of Medicine said that they looked at this issue, has it been debunked? And they said, no, these studies have never been done on the vaccines that are the most likely culprit, which is, DTaP, Hep B, the pneumococcal, the vaccines given in the first 6 months, none of them. He said the only one that has ever been studied is DTaP, which is diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. And they said that the one study that was done showed that, there was a link with autism. But we're not going to count that study because it was based on the VAERS system, which is CDC's only surveillance system. And they said that system is too unreliable. So what they were saying, the Institute of Medicine, which is part of the National Academy of Sciences, said that the only system that CDC has to study vaccine injury is so bad that any study done on it, we're not going to count.
Kurt, do you think that's just bad timing or incompetence, or do you think this is strategically done?
Strategically done, and then the excuse that they come up with, it just falls right in line once again with everything that we're told, and it's just again frustrating. I read just this morning that children under 6 years old getting the flu is the highest death rates they've ever seen from that age range. And we, it's obvious what the reasons for that have to be.
I don't know where we come out from this, right? Everyone asks me, well, what do we do? And then what is it going to, what's going to look like? And I'm like, hell, I don't know. I don't know. I'm really curious how this plays out, and will Americans be so outraged? And then I think, well, I don't think they will. They're killing your children, my children. They're killing our children. And we're all kind of like, well, it's the way it goes. And I just don't know. I do know that the product that you have and that you've allowed me to be on a sponsorship of my show is your company, Pet Club 24/7, for pets and for humans. And I believe, since I've been doing this show and have partnership with you, and I've talked to other doctors and done a lot of research, everything is about your immune system. Everything. They're even saying cancer now is actually an immune deficiency issue that needs to be handled, not by chemotherapy and killing you because it doesn't work. It's your immune system. So tell us, like, I've had COVID multiple times. I've had remdesivir pumped through my system at least 2 to 3 times. So I know my body has extreme toxins in it. How does your product help me in my gut and immune system to eradicate that from my system?
Yeah, you're right. Immunity is everything. And that's the core. And like you said, God didn't make a mistake when he designed us. He built it into our bodies to have immunity against these things. We do not need all these outside shots for things that we may or may not get, that if we do get, may or may not be resolved, right? And so this is why we're so passionate about educating people on the immune system and how the immune system can repair, rebuild, regulate, rebalance, resolve a lot of what's happening inside of the body. And God has given us this really pure and potent strain of a mushroom called the Coriolis versicolor mushroom. And we've just perfected the extraction process. And we're just trying to get this mushroom into every pet, every person, every single day, including children, because we want to strengthen and support that immune system, feed it the right foods that God has abundantly grown for us out in nature in its purest, truest form. We haven't manipulated it or added anything to it. We just extract it in its purest form and get it into the body. And once the body has the food that it needs, it can thrive, and the immune system can help the body thrive. And so that's what we're incredibly passionate about, is number one, educating people like you're doing on what's causing all of this, the compromise of the immune system and all of these deficiencies in the immune system, avoiding those things and not complying with them anymore. And then at the same time, eating the proper foods like the Coriolis versicolor mushroom to give it the support that it needs to modulate and to function optimally.
We are in a fight, I really believe. And if you want to be in a fight, like, it's a physical fight now. There is no other way around it. It's a physical fight. And you can't fight if you're not healthy. If you're systematically slowly dying, it's not going to be. You need to be in I think spiritual, emotional, but physical optimal shape, because they're not going to end. They're not going to stop. Meaning the evil, and they're evil. The evil people that are in our country and outside the forces. And I appreciate you guys coming and talking this openly about your faith and what you believe in, because I really believe that's the answer. Is especially Christians just saying what we believe because we know it's the truth. Stop trying to be civil and stop trying to not offend people. We either believe in the Creator and that he was perfect, the Creator is perfect and created a perfect environment, or we have to believe that we need Moderna and Pfizer and Dr. Fauci's. I mean, we laugh, but it's insane, right? It's when you say it out loud, it sounds absurd. Maybe that's the litmus test, guys. Every time we see something or told something, we repeat it word for word and see if we laugh, right? I mean, seriously. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about the moon landing, 9/11. You talked about 9/11. My wife used to say, I think it's an inside job. And I would literally say, don't say that outside the house Everyone will think you're crazy because I think you're crazy. Now I had to go to and apologize. I'm sorry. It's because I watch it now and I go, well, that's absurd. How did everything blow up except multiple passports that we found of the people that flew the planes into? I mean, you're like, oh my God, am I that stupid? Please, God, forgive me for being so stupid. So, guys, thank you very much. You have an incredible product, Pet Club 24/7. Thank you very much, and I hope to talk with you guys soon. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
God bless.
Appreciate you.
All right. God bless you too. Pet Club 24/7, incredible product. I take it every day. I have my green bottle. It's up in my room now. It's down in my studio, and as a reminder for me to take it. Pet Club 24/7. Go to truthwithjj247.com. Kurt and Kristen are the owners. Incredible people. Christian. And that's something that I talk about too, is you want to sponsor, you want to go to companies that align with you. I'm not talking about go buy a car from the worst car maker just because they're a Christian. Or I'm going to go to a home builder and he's a Christian, but my gosh, he sucks. He builds houses that fall down. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you find a company, an organization that provides a product or service and it's excellent, why would you go and give your money to other companies that hate you? It's illogical. It's illogical. And I think that's one way Christians can really fortify each other, is we do business with each other. What an ingenious thought. Pet Club 24/7. Go to truthwithjj247.com. I have a next guest coming in, Chris from Sat 123. Every week, it's one catastrophe after another. It is insane. But before it comes in, I want to talk about something that Trump is doing, and it's ingenious. And I don't think anybody's. I've looked for this, and nobody's really talking about it from a law enforcement strategic investigative way. And that's Donald Trump labeling Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. Let's play this. Can you play clip number 12, please, Logan?
Yeah, just so we go ahead. Why don't you defend? Let's see.
Is Chris here, Logan?
No, I'm not defending anyone. I just want so that we can just explain this in our stories. Could you name a couple?
You don't explain it right, though, Jeff. Go ahead. Let's go. Maybe let's give you another chance. Go ahead.
Antifa, Soros. What names are we talking about?
Well, Soros is a name certainly that I keep hearing. I don't know, but Soros is a name that I hear. I hear a lot of different names. I hear names of some pretty rich people that are radical left people. Maybe I hear about a guy named Reid Hoffman. Somebody's a pretty rich guy, I guess, and I hear about him. I don't know. Maybe could be him. Could be a lot of people. We hear the same names, but they're bad, and we're going to find out. And if they are funding these things, they're going to have some problems because they're agitators and they're anarchists. These are anarchists. Really bad. Okay. Yeah, please.
Today, man.
Hey, man. A lot going on this week.
A lot going on this week. So let me just talk real quick about this Antifa, and then we'll get into what we were going to talk about. But it's all tied together. So what I believe Donald Trump is doing, why I played this right before you coming on, is Donald Trump is setting the stage for not only Antifa, but going and arresting people that are funding it. So if Antifa is a terrorist organization, as same as Hamas, well, if we have someone in America that's funding Hamas, then they are an enemy of the state and they're arrested. Same thing is going to happen with Antifa. I think it's a brilliant move by Donald Trump. Just as I brought you in, just kind of off the cuff, what do you think about making Antifa a terrorist organization and what they've done to America?
Well, JJ, I mean, I don't like to talk about things that I'm not fully educated on, but I do see that we have a tremendous amount of new kind of attacks going on, not just in this country, but around the world, focused on infrastructure and transportation and communication. We saw starting at just right after last Friday's call, we had the attacks in Europe on the ticketing system, which actually I believe affected the U.S. as well, and Collins Aerospace. And I see that British police have made an arrest in that, which is good, at least progress. But when you attack the ticketing system of an airline, you make it impossible to buy tickets or change tickets. But what you also do is make it impossible for people to check in. And that brought global air travel and transportation to a grinding halt very quickly. We then saw, right alongside that, we saw, multiple drone sightings buzzing over airports throughout Europe. We've been seeing that in the U.S. around, power distribution centers and along the power grid for a long time. These kind of what look like to me tests of what we will do if these kind of things happen. Then we saw the cutting of the cables that affected 911 service down in the South in, I believe it was Mississippi, Louisiana. Again, it was a relatively small disruption, but imagine if that happened in Manhattan or Chicago or LA, or Dallas, right? These things can be cause absolute, absolute chaos, because if you take out 911, if you take out air travel, if you take out communications networks, we are all in the dark, and then everything just runs on rumors and, hearsay. And to me, if I'm an enemy of this country, the easiest, cheapest way, the lowest hanging fruit, is to disrupt these kind of, this kind of infrastructure, right? Because, if suddenly we can't get internet and we can't get on our cell phones, then what happens, right? Then what do? We have no way of knowing what's going on. It could be nothing. It could be everything. So in New York was particularly interesting around the United Nations General Assembly, mate, because there, according to the Secret Service, they seized hundreds of text servers, right? And 100,000 SIM cards, and that they're calling it a distributed denial of service attack, a DDoS attack. We're used to these kind of things on the internet where multiple servers are requisitioned around the world with viruses and attack one site or one provider. But less common has been this kind of attack on a cell phone network. So, in theory, this amount of servers could send up to 30 million plus text messages a minute. And whilst the text messages themselves may be harmless, what they do is they take out cell towers, right? The towers become overwhelmed. And so without any physical damage, they were able to take out, cell towers. Right. And now you can imagine, again, if that situation is replicated throughout Washington, D.C., throughout Chicago, throughout Dallas, all at the same time, it will be absolute chaos. And all of this just, leads us back to the absolute requirement for everyone to have an independent form of communication. In this, case, of course, I'm talking about satellite phones that don't have cell towers. There are no satellite phone towers. Sat phones can, talk directly to satellites. They communicate directly to and from satellites in the sky, and therefore down to, larger ground stations around the world. But they're not subject to these kind of attacks. Then, the sat phone service did not go down at all because of any of this, this chaos that was being caused this week. Whoever's behind it, I don't know. We need to get to the bottom of this. Obviously, I believe that there are bad state actors involved here. The usual suspects, I'm sure, are in play: Russia, China, North Korea, and so on, Iran potentially. But whoever's behind it, whether it's a homegrown terrorist group or, a bad actor, a bad state nation actor, the result is the same. It's disruption and chaos here in the U.S., and that's their goal, make no mistake.
No, absolutely. Laura Loomer posted this. I'm going to read it, and it goes directly in line with what we're talking about: Antifa, homegrown terrorists, and coupled with the terrorists that we've allowed into our country. And she mentioned, I'm going to read it just right off her post. This comes after 9/11 fiber cables were cut in Mississippi and Louisiana today. Fiber cables at the Dallas airport were also disrupted on Friday, which caused delays and cancellations for thousands of flights. She continues on and says, something is very wrong. This is clearly pre-planning for something much larger. There's no way these are just three random incidents in one day. Blackout, sabotage of emergency service lines, and recent discoveries this week by the Secret Service, which you mentioned, of more than 300 located SIM servers and 100,000 SIM cards across multiple sites were made to disrupt phone networks and send out mass messaging to millions of cell phones. Chris, we are not living in a if scenario. We're living in a when and how bad. So tell my audience what your company, sat123.com, provides as far as connectability. What is it that those cell phones, sat phones that you talked about? Because a lot of people are going to say, I don't have $1,500 to get a sat phone. I don't have $400 for another landline. That's not true, is it? The costs are minimal at best now.
Yeah, like JJ, for a long time, our goal has been to make this kind of redundant communication available and affordable to everyone. We don't think just the rich, the millionaires, the billionaires, the elite should have access to this. We all know that the entire Senate were given these sat phones, in the last year or so. But everyone, every working family, man and woman in this country should be able to afford one of these. And so what we did a while back was made these sat phones free with activation, so they can cost $1,000 to $2,000 each anywhere else in the world. But only at sat123.com you can get a free phone with activation. You're paying as little as $85 a month to get 150 minutes, and those minutes can even roll over if you don't use them. But look, I understand that not everyone has an extra $85 a month. Times are hard, but if you get together with other members in your community and just your small village, your town, if you and your friends have a sat phone between you, that will give you as a group, as a team, the ability to get information in or out from wherever you are. And this is going to be vital, should, if, or when, there be some kind of coordinated consecutive attack across the country on our cell phone networks, power networks, and so on, that will knock out cell phones, then you and your family, friends, and your community, you will have access to information, and you'll be able to send out information. So if you need help or you need to find out what's going on, a sat phone enables that. JJ, we also have the Starlink service. Of course, we have free units with activation. Again, our focus and goal is to make sure that this kind of communication that will not go down when the cell towers go down or the power grid goes down, the Starlink network will continue to work and give you, very high speed data up and down, no matter pretty much where you are on the planet. And beyond that, if the power grid goes out, we have solar powered portable generators, again, heavily discounted every single day at sat123.com. And so we can provide you with power, communications, and internet, no matter what is going on. But look, as a country, right, the more of us that are prepared like this, the more communities that are prepared, the less damage an aggressor can do, whatever it is. Because clearly, if you don't think this week that this was not by design, then you're living in the sand. This is absolutely, the worst that we've seen, is the most activity like this we've seen in years. And you and I have been talking about this ever since I started coming on your show. You know what's coming. I know what's coming. And none of this is a coincidence. It is planned. And all what we can do, as individuals, for ourselves, our family, and our communities, is make sure that we are prepared and we can communicate no matter what. We can repower our homes, our devices, keep the power on no matter what. And with portable solar powered generators, sat phones, and Starlink internet, you are going to be an awful lot more prepared than anyone else. And you're going to hopefully that will enable you to survive and thrive in this situation, because these attacks could go on not just for hours, but for days, weeks, or longer. And if that is the case, then, this is what you need.
Chris, I pray that you and I are wrong, but we know that we're not. And it's a when. It's a when now. That's the question, when it's going to happen. Too much chatter. It's almost as the government begins to prep you for the events that are coming. And I believe that we are being prepped right now. Chris, thank you so much. I know you and I joke many, many times, well, what in goodness gracious name are we going to talk about next week? It's getting crazier and crazier, Chris. I don't even know what we'll talk about next week, but I know that it will be something of magnitude. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, mate. I'll see you soon. Cheers.
All right. Thank you. Chris from sat123.com/JG, or call the number on your screen. I love talking to him because it's about being prepared. It's about being ready. Things are not going to get better. I'm not blackpilling you. I'm just telling you. Before I end for the week, I want to talk about this real quick. And I don't want to talk about it real quick and minimize it. I want you to know that what's happening now, finally, we might get one arrest. We got one indictment. James Comey. However, with that being said, why are we allowing James Comey to walk in and surrender? Why are we not kicking his door in at 6 a.m, dragging him out in his pajamas, handcuffed, with a messy hair? Why are we not doing that? He did that. He did that to hundreds, if not thousands of Americans. He did this to Roger Stone. Can you play clip number 14? It's a 15-second clip, but I just want to get you the feel of what he did to a 70-plus-year-old man. He's not going to fight anybody. It's Roger Stone. Go ahead and play this for us, Thomas, please. Number 14.
Show up heavily armed in riot gear like this, but they didn't do this for other people connected in the investigation. So it is remarkable that they did this without warning, without any indication to Stone's lawyers beforehand that this would happen. We don't know also if they
that I counted just in that brief clip at least 8 to 10 officers going to arrest a 70-year-old man at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Why is this not being done to James Comey? The precedent has been set. Why are we not following the precedent? Don't tell me we need to be better than them. No, it's not. No. What an insane week again. Shooting of ICE officers. The left demanding more violence. The left mocking Charlie Kirk's murder. The left mocking his wife for forgiving Charlie Kirk's murder. That now we're finding out, well, is that really Charlie Kirk's murder? Is that really the assassin? Every single thing in our life must be questioned because they have shown us that they are liars throughout history. Wake up, America.
July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from this, from our viewers, than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, I have not ever seen anything like it. The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste, putting it in my mouth, and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a talc treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I can eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer, and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gatatiana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain of phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single-cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. 1 scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gadatana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
All right, welcome. Glad you are with us. We're going to be joined by Aaron Levarco out of Israel, Leo Holman. We have breaking news here, folks. We have breaking news that Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, is calling 800 generals and admirals to a meeting. 800. I think this is kind of unprecedented. Now, what do you think is going on with this? Particularly after the troubling Truth Social post by President Trump about we're going to fund NATO and then go do what they want with these weapons with Venezuela, with Ukraine and their war against Russia, and maybe Ukraine should take back land and even more. That Russia's a paper tiger, which I think was a very dangerous Truth Social post. Many other folks think so, David Pine and others. So what's going on now? I don't know. We're going to talk about it. How many of you are aware of the number of people on social media that are talking about the fact that the late night shows don't offer equal time? They only offer one opinion. Did you guys see folks last week complaining about that? Guys, do we have any tweets or stuff we can show? Because I know I saw it. They're looking. Can I just tell you, the right sometimes, I think their discernment on a scale of 1 to 10 goes to about a 2.